The Bhagavad Gita is really one of the most profound ancient spiritual scriptures that you could ever read, and I highly suggest you go on YouTube, look up the audiobook. It's 2 hours and 37 minutes or something like that, or maybe a little more. It's under 3 hours, and it's really good, and the narration is really cool and neat, and it's very profound. I listened to it several times. I am drawn to listen to it again, so I'd like to have a little chat on it. So the book is very rich. There are so many themes in the book. It's essentially a conversation between Arjuna, who is this, compassionate, good guy, what you think of a good guy as, a good guy. And he's torn apart in regards to fighting his cousins, okay, who are bad guys essentially. And he doesn't really want to fight them. So he has a conversation with God in the form of Krishna. So God is incarnated in the form of Krishna, and he becomes his advisor in the war, okay? And he sort of tells him, Arjuna is essentially kind of crying. He's like, I don't really want to fight them. Like, these are my teachers, my cousins. And, Krishna just tells him, like, dude, you got to do it. He's like, you got to do it. And so he tells him so many things. There's so many valuable themes in the book, right? It's very non-dualistic, and it's very much, it does look at life as some kind of a video game. So like, Krishna basically tells him, look, like, it's just a game. Death is it's not the end, you're eternal. Anyway, that's a whole theme on its own that probably requires at least like a half an hour video. What I would like to talk about specifically in this video is the paths. There's 3 main paths that Krishna outlines to Arjuna, or Arjuna, however you wanna look at him. Names don't really matter. And he provides him with 3 different paths to enlightenment, to liberation, to becoming free of the bonds of samsara, free from the bonds of the cycle of reincarnation, the cycle of death and rebirth. And those 3 paths are the path of action, daily action, known as karma yoga. The second one is the path of bhakti yoga, bhakti, and it is the path of devotion, or the path of love. And the third path is the path of jnana, nana, yana, however you want to pronounce it. And it is the path of meditation and contemplation and study. And so Krishna tells him that you could gain liberation through any of these methods, any of these paths. If you stick to it long enough, you will gain liberation from the bonds of samsara. And if not, you gain full liberation, full enlightenment, then you will get partial enlightenment. You will get, essentially, you'll level up in the game, so that the next time you go on the cycle, you're even in a better position karmically to continue your work towards liberation, towards enlightenment. And he doesn't exactly tell him that you have to follow one path per se, but he says you could gain liberation through a combination of all the paths, or even just one path, one of them. So let's talk. I got about 30 minutes here. I could probably talk about these for many hours, but I'll try and keep it more on the brief side. So let's start off with the first path that Krishna outlines. The path of jnana, nana, okay? The path of meditation, contemplation, and study. Why do I want to start off with that? Because this is, in our heads, when we think spirituality, what do we think? We think meditation, don't we? When we think spirituality, we think meditation. When we think spirituality, we think somebody sitting in lotus position and just in eyes closed, right? When you think, for most people, when they think Eastern religion, the first image they pop into their head is like somebody sitting and meditating, right? Now, that is a very powerful and valuable path, and I talk about it a lot in these videos. However, it is possible to be enlightened, to fully get enlightened, without ever meditating, if you follow the other paths, okay? So keep that in mind. This is definitely a trap that I also fell into when I started working on this. I thought, well, you just gotta meditate. Meditation is the only way. If you don't meditate, then you got no chance. I even remember making a video not too long ago saying, if you don't meditate, you don't got a chance at this game, which is not true. So The path of meditation to becoming free. You sit down and you contemplate. You contemplate, you close your eyes, you withdraw your senses, you withdraw your attention, your awareness from this world, so that you could go into a different world, a different plane of consciousness, which could illuminate you with wisdom, which could illuminate you with experience, which could open up certain energy centers inside in this vehicle that you're in, and give you illumination, give you freedom. So the path of meditation, it usually goes hand in hand with study. So you could think meditation could also be translated as contemplation. You sit there, you contemplate, and you study. You study, I mean, that path, you could think that path, by the way, Vedanta, the school, the philosophical school of thought, the Hindu philosophical school of thought known as Vedanta, is a perfect example of that path of meditation and study and contemplation, because they're very philosophical. They talk a lot of philosophy, and they also meditate. You see, so that could be one path, and you could follow that, and you could make significant progress, right? Ashtanga Yoga, the famous path of Patanjali, Ashtanga Yoga, I made videos on it, the path of 8 limbs. That's Jnana Yoga. That's also the path of meditation and contemplation. It involves meditation, withdrawing from this world, bringing your awareness into other dimensions, other planes of consciousness. And it involves studying also. So you study ancient scriptures like the Tao Te Ching, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, holy texts, the Bible, etc., etc., etc. Right? So that's the path of the intellect. Okay, that's the intellectual path. In to put it to you like that. Again, same thing. Vipassana, Buddhism, Vipassana, the path of the Buddha. Same thing. That's the path of meditation. Jnana, study, contemplation. Observing, becoming the watcher, becoming the observant, and that path can really take you far, very, very far. Also, chanting, mantra, same thing. You're trying to bring your mind into one-pointedness. You're trying to just be one. You're trying to just bring it into one thing, because when you bring it into one thing, you're basically almost transcending duality and then almost into oneness. Because if, let's say, I meditate long enough and I can bring my attention on my third eye, after a while, I and my third eye become one. Or if I'm doing Tritaka, where I'm looking at a candle flame, if I do it long enough and I practice long enough, then at some point it's just me and the candle. There's nothing else. After a little while, I am the candle, I am me, and I am everything. So it's always about transcending the duality. Okay? And so meditation is very powerful. Chanting, any form of meditation, humming. And again, that's the classical path that we think of when we think enlightenment, when we think freedom, when we think guru, or when these words come up, right? Or spiritual. We think meditation, sitting down in lotus, meditating, right? That's one path only, though. That's one path. Okay? So, obviously, doing this path, meditating, you'll just become a more aware person. You'll have much more energy coming through. When you try and sit down and do a form of meditation, do humming for an hour, then you will suddenly become so connected with the elements, and you'll grab energy from the sun, you'll grab energy from the clouds. It's amazing, from the trees. Really, like, your senses will be enhanced. Very, very, very powerful. There's a reason why it's thought of as the classical path, because it is a powerful path. And it is the path of many of the rishis who wrote the Upanishads. Was the path of meditation, jnana. That's why it gained that classical status, right? So, now we've got 2 more paths. Very powerful. In fact, one of them, let's talk about Bhakti Yoga. That is the one suggested by Krishna. I believe by Krishna. That is the one suggested by Krishna, that this is actually the best path to take. Not meditation, but Bhakti Yoga in the Kali Yuga. Okay, Yuga is different than yoga. Yuga is the cycles of time. So it is actually suggested by God, by Krishna, that if you're living in the Kali Yuga, that if you go through the Bhakti Yoga, the method, the yoga of devotion and love, that you're going to have a higher success rate than going through the path of meditation. Why? Because the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, which we are just coming out of, by the way, still probably in it, just coming out of it. You could see this because there's so much suffering in the planet. There has been so much suffering in the planet for the last few thousand years because we've been in the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. So because there's so much, I mean, the main character of the Kali Yuga, there's so much deception and lying. So you're trying to use your intellect, you're trying to use meditation, intellect, and study in an age that is essentially full of lies and deception. So you see why it is more difficult to do the meditation path, because you're living in the midst of lies and deception, and you're trying to use the mind to go beyond the mind. You're trying to use the intellect to go beyond the intellect. You see? So whereas Bhakti Yoga, it uses the power of devotion and love, which has this incredible ability to transcend boundaries and to take you to that place. To take you to that place of oneness, that place of non-duality, that place of unconditional love, that place of appreciation, gratitude, and acceptance. Okay? And from my experimentation with all these different paths, I tend to agree with that. I really think that path is the path of Bhakti Yoga is the most powerful one in the Kali Yuga. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about the path of Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. So essentially, it comes in many shapes and forms, and I'm going to explain it to you from different angles. But the classical Bhakti Yoga is that you pick a deity, you pick a god, Shiva, Kali, Makali, or Vishnu. You could pick Vishnu in the form of Ram or in the form of Krishna, etc., etc., etc. And so you have a deity, and then your entire life, you could even be Buddha, your entire life becomes a service to that deity, becomes a statement dedicated to that deity. So you wake up in the morning, and the first thing on your mind is your beloved, your god, your goddess. So you go, you offer them, that's why they have the statues. You offer them food, you offer them drink, you ask for their blessings, you ask, for their for them to give you, happiness, well-being, etc. So essentially you could do this with Jesus also. You could do this with any sort of deity, any sort of a self-realized being. The Christians do it with Jesus often. These Jesus heads, right? Jesus will save you, right? That's to them, that's their sort of their Bhakti Yoga with Jesus. So essentially you fully and totally surrender yourself to a deity that is associated with unconditional love. Okay? And so you start to sing songs for, that's when it gets really interesting. That's when Bhakti Yoga gets really interesting. Bhajan, right, is what they call it. And kirtan. So you sing these songs, because that's your beloved. You're dedicated. So you sing these songs, right? Praising the Lord, praising God, praising Jesus, praising Krishna, praising the divine. Okay, and because these deities are just as real as you and I, they're just now hanging out on the astral plane. So when you actually reach out to them, they reach out to you. You see? So by you singing these songs to that deity in which you dedicated yourself to, that deity gives you its blessings, her blessings, his blessings. Okay? Because these deities, they're hanging out on the astral plane. Okay? They're all real. Shiva and Vishnu and Krishna, they all existed, and they're all real, just as real as you and I right now. So they actually reach to you, and they actually give you the blessings. And so what happens a lot of times, almost all the time, is in these devotional type singing, is such an amount of love and gratitude are generated, because you're reaching out to this enlightened entity that is pure light, pure love. And so you become that entity, you become that love. That love is bestowed upon you, and you channel it. Why do you channel it? Because you're so open to it, you surrender to it. You surrender to it, you sing to it, you dance to it, your entire life is dedicated to it. To serve your beloved, to serve your God, to serve your goddess, your Lord, etc. So it is incredibly powerful. And it is something I practice in my daily life. And that's why I say, if you practice this, I'm telling you, you will need to meditate less and less. because it is extremely, love is extremely powerful. So now, who else does it? The Sufis. The Sufis. The Sufis, I mean, Sufism is the essence of it is the whirling, the dancing, and the singing. And they do, it's basically, I mean, Sufis were very much influenced by Hindus, and they were influenced by the Bhakti yoga part of Hinduism. So this is the way I do it, actually. I do it the Sufi way. Because I grew up as a Muslim, so for me it's much easier to get in touch with with the vibration of it. So they also sing songs for God, full of gratitude, full of appreciation, full of love. I mean, all you gotta do, go look up The Gift of Love by Rumi on YouTube. It's a 43-minute bit. Listen to it. I mean, it'll make you cry. It'll bring you to tears. And so the Sufis are also practicing Bhakti yoga. They're practicing the yoga of devotion, of surrender, of just, it's incredible. I listen to Sufi music and I find myself crying. I find myself getting on my knees and just, putting my head down very humbly. And I just find myself full of appreciation for the phenomena of life, and full of compassion towards all of being, and tears are coming down my face and everything. Powerful. And I have been practicing Bhakti yoga in the form of the Sufi dancing and the Sufi music lately, and I have been meditating much less than I was before, because you're trying to do the same thing. You're really trying to do the same thing. It's your exact same thing, no different. You're trying to get to the same place. You're trying to get to that same place. So this one is faster, but it really requires an open heart. Your heart really has to be open and humble. It really requires humbleness to be able to say, well, my existence is dedicated. It's not even mine. It's God's. You see, and then in that openness, in that sort of open-heartedness, and in that sort of surrender and humbleness. Because you essentially, I mean, you dedicating yourself, you're basically acknowledging that you have no choice, that you're a servant of God. You're surrendering. You're becoming an instrument for the Tao. But because of that surrender, the energy comes in very, very rapidly. Oh, very rapidly. Okay? So that's the path of Bhakti yoga. And I suppose you could also practice it on your fellow human beings. It is a little bit more dangerous to play with, because human beings are complex, whereas these beings, they these gods and these deities, and they represent unconditional love. They are in many ways less complex. They're just pure love, pure light. So they love you no matter what. With humans, it's more complex. But you could find yourself, luckily, in a relationship of some sorts where that person is available for you to also devote yourself to. It could be a guru, right? It could be even a spouse. That one is difficult to play with, very difficult, but it could be a partner also, that you just dedicate your life to. It could be a child. You dedicate yourself. But it's again, much more complex with humans, a lot of things involved. So you're probably better off just sticking to these self-realized beings, this pure light, pure unconditional love, because it's a lot less complex and it takes you in, and man, does it give you love. Does it give you love, right? So Bhakti yoga. Now, to the third path, the path of karma yoga, the path of daily action. And personally is one of my favorite paths. And that is the path of service. That is the path of dedicating a significant portion of your life to serve God, if not all of your life to serve God, in whichever way Spirit, the Tao, the Force has placed you in the universe to serve. Okay? So, to give you an example of somebody who primarily practiced karma yoga, was Gandhi. Gandhi was serving his people, was serving the planet, was serving the world. Karma yoga was his primary way. He obviously did lots of the other ones too. You're always advised to do all three, but most times you will gravitate towards one, or over one as primary. So Gandhi is an example of that, somebody who dedicated his life in the service of others. Essentially, it's dedicating your life in the service of others. Your existence becomes to serve. Kind of like Hanuman's relationship to Ram. If you're familiar with the Ramayana, Hanuman was Ram is God, basically. Vishnu incarnated as God, right? And Hanuman was this very, very conscious, very, very, very aware being. And he was a servant. He was Ram's servant. He lived to serve Ram. His entire existence is pure karma yoga is Hanuman. Okay, he was pure karma yoga. Pure karma yoga. Okay, 100%. His entire existence was to serve Ram. His entire existence, he existed for Ram. Okay, he was the breath of Ram. He existed only for Ram, to serve Ram. And that was his way of liberation. That was his freedom. And he was thankful to Ram for allowing him to serve him. It wasn't like, well, Ram, I'm serving you now, so am I going to get enlightened? It was like, no, thank you, Ram, for allowing me to serve you. Because I am becoming enlightened. I'm becoming free because you're allowing me to serve you. Because service is a wonderful thing. Serving others, I mean, wow. So it's a wonderful thing. I love making these videos because I am serving you by making these videos. I feel I am serving the world, really. And so my own version of karma yoga at this present moment is my YouTube channel. It's this YouTube channel, it's this work, sharing this work. And in fact, I have been really reflecting on these, on all this lately, which is why you've seen the increase in the number of videos lately. And it'll continue because I really gravitate towards the path of karma yoga. I think I am placed on this earth to serve also. I think I have a lot inside of me that wants to serve. There's a lot inside. I've been digging deep, and it turns out I really want to serve. I really want to live to serve. I really want to, and so that's currently at the moment is my way of serving, is sharing this wisdom, is getting it, applying it, and then sharing it. And so that's my service to the world. That's my karma yoga, this work also. And I'm thankful. It's not like, oh, well, guys, how cool am I for serving you? It's like, I'm actually thankful that you all are allowing me to serve you by watching my videos. Thank you, because that's my way of becoming free. You see? So there isn't any of like, oh, well, look at how cool I am, or I'm really doing it. It's more like, no, actually, thank you for letting me serve you. Thank you for allowing me to serve you, because that's my work on myself. I'm becoming freer. I'm becoming more joyful, happier, more fulfilled by serving. So you could totally be free just by serving. So you could spend a zero amount of time meditating, okay, and you could throw the whole concept of gods and deities out of the window completely. And if you fully dedicate your life to service, that could be your path to liberation. That could be your path to freedom. Okay, so this is very important to keep in mind, that the way to liberation, the way to freedom, there is no one way. That don't associate it with just meditating, or don't associate it just with praising God. Because Bhakti is essentially praising. You're praising God. You're dedicating yourself to a deity, unconditional love. You're becoming a servant, essentially, which they all tie together, because you become a servant, you're now into the realm of karma yoga. But what I'm saying is, don't mistake this. Don't think that there's only one way. And the way it's traditionally been in India is the Brahmin class went the Jnana way, the meditation way, the study way, and then the Sudras, the common class, usually went through the karma yoga path and the bhakti yoga path. Which is why you see a lot of the practitioners of bhakti yoga are not really from the Brahmin class. They're like just simple people, and then you could go and you can meet some people who are just like working 24/7, and they have the biggest smile on their face, and you just feel the purity of their heart, because they're fully involved in karma yoga. They don't need to sit down and meditate. They don't need to sing any songs to God and praise the Lord and surrender and all that. They're in it also through the path of karma yoga. So one thing I learned about myself, I went to Vipassana to meditate. I left halfway through because I realized, nah, I'm not, that's not my way. It's not the way I still meditate, but no, I'm not gonna sit for 10 hours a day and meditate. That's not my particular path. That's not my way. That's somebody else's way. But right now, that isn't particularly my way. and that I find that the more I practice karma yoga and bhakti yoga with a little bit of meditation, I just find naturally, if I'm practicing karma yoga through making these videos and through practicing compassion and through, all that good stuff, through, making the conscious effort to connect with my family, with my friends, cultivating intimate relationships in my life, all karma yoga. Listening to my friends, listening to their problems, being there with them, listening to them, that's karma yoga, daily action. I find the more I do of that, and the more I do of the bhakti yoga, which I do, quite a fair bit of nowadays, just singing and praising God and surrendering and really getting emotional, feeling the emotion of love here. I read some of Rumi's poetry. It really brings me to tears. That's all bhakti, devotion. I find that the more I personally do those two, the less I meditate. You see, which makes sense because all three paths are leading to the same place. And for some, they will dedicate themselves to one path. For others, they will do maybe a couple and a little bit of the third. For some, I rotate. I really do rotate. Like just a few weeks ago, I was just doing meditation, strictly actually, just humming for like 4 hours a day, and I was going somewhere with that too. Believe me, I was going somewhere with that too. So you could rotate also, and it depends on every moment of your life, every stage in your life. You sort of rotate between the roles. You just have to feel the way, the Tao inside of you. You have to see where is it leading you, what is it telling you, and follow it. If it's telling you go meditate, then get yourself to a mountain and just meditate all day, every day. Then maybe at some point, like that's what happened to me here. I kept meditating and meditating and meditating until I got the revelation in the meditation. It's time to go back and serve now. And it's time to bring more of that gratitude and the emotions inside. And I've been doing that now, and those two paths are my primary paths at the moment. And it'll probably keep rotating. At some point, maybe I'll get burn out a little bit because now I'm like you see, 2 videos a day, and I'm really just dedicating my life to YouTube now. Like I just I do research, blah blah blah. Like it's day and night for me now. I'm like deeply involved in karma yoga actually at the moment, the path of service. Maybe I'll burn out at some point, and then I'll just go back to the path of meditation, right? So rotate them, try them out, see which one is most appropriate for you in a particular moment that you're in, and you'll feel really good. You'll feel more liberated, more expanded, more aware, right? And it's time to listen to the Bhagavad Gita again for me. It really is. It's that time now. I'm getting the call for it again. Highly suggest you go on YouTube, look it up, listen to it. Less than 3 hours, change your life. It's one of those things you're just gonna have to keep. It's kind of like the Tao Te Ching. It's right up there with the Tao. I mean, really. If you ask me, top 5 books, Said, Tao Te Ching, Bhagavad Gita. For sure, those are gonna be in the top 5. So yeah. Thank you to all the Patreons for allowing me to serve you, and for that matter, for all of you guys. Thank you all for allowing me to serve you, actually. Okay, thank you. That's my work on myself. And if you would like to perhaps return the favor in your own way, you don't have to, because then I don't expect you to. Because if I do expect you to, that's an impurity in me that I have to work on. I don't expect you to. But it would be nice if you have something to put in to grow this channel that we're all about here. Perhaps give me the freedom to do this full time so I could travel around, meet you guys, host some retreats. It'll be really cool. So if you'd like to contribute, Patreon, one-time donations on PayPal, I appreciate everything that I have received, the continued support. All the love, guys. Instagram, Saeed Mobayed. Make sure you follow. And until next time, may the force be with you.